Last week, we got a demo from Antoine about the gallery. Talked about release, which was released and re-released. And we have today, October demos. Cool. Topics. Today then. Be quick. Let's see. Option 1. Nothing new. Option core. We have main branch. This branch. So last week 24. 24 last week. Oh, look at that. This was after the before. This one. Then this one, fix null reference exception when the user set their time zone as the size. Okay, if there is no user, then it returns null. This selector doesn't return anything. Otherwise, it takes the user time zone. So you might have this selector and no user authenticated. So this will fail. Okay. So fixing the the user time zone selector when no user is logged in. Order rows alphabetically on the album. Okay. Thanks. matTrabolsi. No name. Release 201. Templates, new themes, new command lines, update of the versions. With 4 commits. That was the goal. But something happened and every commits were released. So in the meantime, okay, this was 2.0. No, yeah. So and in the meantime, when we saw the issue on Thursday morning, we then recreated a new release 2.02 with only the fixes that were supposed to be -1 because one of them was ambiguous in terms of, well, it was risky in terms of security because it's changing one of the security features. So we decided to not ship it because we're doing the release. And that's why here we have the 3 commits and release 2.0.2. So same thing as 2.01, but with the correct commits, which was then merged into main branch. After that, what do we have? Fix registration settings display driver. Update the sync. Yep. Okay. Start checking the thing that was sent in the driver. So this was never updated apparently. Oh, the has changed. I see. Yeah, down date, another one, another one. So that. Adding content item alternate space until yes. Slug. This was from Mark done during the hackathon at Conference. The idea is that this auto route shape table provider will dynamically change every content shapes to add new alternates based on slug. So name handle. So content slug handle. Then with the display type like content summary slug and the value of the slug. Same thing for the alias. Content alias example. If you have an alias on the page, so you can define the template for specific content item, which has if it has an alias or if it has a slug, you usually use one or the other to identify the content item. And that's it. And it's also documented examples. And also an example with a dash because ambiguous. By the way, I'm not even sure that's actually working. Let's see if the code handles that, because I think Mike had a related issue recently, and I was reviewing this code also. So this, yes, encoded slug. So yeah, nope. And yeah, no, this is working for the encode alternate element. The idea being that if in your slug you have a dash, it should be converted to __, such that this thing that is documented here works like this. So the question is, does encode alternate element works? I'm pretty sure it does, because why would it be named this way if it was not doing that? And it does. Okay, good. So this is why it works. Okay, perfect. Material, fixed notes, similarities. Okay, this is space. Dependencies. SQL from 8 to 9, and it worked smoothly, but there is a current PR open for going to 8 something, which has breaking changes. Everything that is working, then databated and clarified to 0. Oh yeah, because of matTrabolsi. How do you comment? No. Nope. Okay, just clarification. Not the thing I wanted to see also. It's okay. But they will have it. Cool. Questions? Repeats? Comments? PRs? Issues with 202?
Did you look at that PR for the roles?
Oh yeah, we can talk about it. I didn't look since last time. Is that the new PR?
Oh, it's the same PR. I was just
It's
modifying.
the same. Okay. So let's look at the issue first.
You can look at the notes because I put the summary of the recent changes, because there have been a lot of changes.
You mean at the top, right? The description of the PR.
That is updated.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, that's updated, correct.
Okay, so the SiteOwner permission has been deprecated and removing security. Okay, to avoid breaking change with the fast track, my question has been added. Yeah, this is the change of the PR. I wanted to talk about why it is changing. And what are these changes for? Okay, so issue this is about 2022. Okay, so that's part of the issue. And then there is that. Let me see the issue. Okay, so I will try to summarize from these issues and feel free to add more. There are system roles today in Orchard. Anonymous and authenticated, they are not like the other roles. So we have some kinds of roles, right? So roles that you can edit the permissions for. Well, roles that you can create and change the permissions for. And roles that are dynamic or associated to users automatically based on their names, which are anonymous and authenticated. So we will not choose something else than anonymous or anonymous roles, and same thing for authenticated. These are created and assigned to users dynamically. If we know that the user is not authenticated, we give it anonymous. If we know he is authenticated, then we say authenticated. And then you can manage their roles. But we still need to create them to be able to manage their roles. Okay. The other ones, they are just custom roles. You could delete them, everything will still work. And one of them, like administrator, in our recipes today, we assign the permission named SiteOwner to this role. And the SiteOwner is a permission that, when checked, will allow any other permission. So if you have this permission, you will get all other permissions granted. So just by gaining an administrator role that will have this permission, then you have everything, access to everything. We are SiteOwner. In Orchard 1, we had a property in the settings to say what is the username that was the SiteOwner. So we have that. And suggestion from this issue and from others was that we don't use a permission to grant all access to everything, but we use a role. So a role will define that you have access to everything. So after trials and error and discussions, I think an agreement between all the people involved in these discussions was that we should have a system role like we do for authenticated and anonymous. We should have something like administrator as a system role, such that if you are in this role, then you have access to everything. And we don't have to manage permissions for this role because, well, we can, but we have access to everything with this spatial system role. The same way this is special, the same way this is special. So this is this PR, and then this PR handles the fact that we might not want to name it administrator, we might want to name it something else, or the fact that in current websites, you might use administrator as the site owner permission, but you might have an administrator which doesn't have site owner permission. You might have another or others roles that have the site owner permission. And when we migrate, we need to handle that fact that any existing role, custom role that have the site owner permission should become system site owner roles. So that was the last time we talked about it. Maybe some details happen. So some decisions have been made, and maybe will change based on the feedback, but like naming the roles and also being able to change the name of this role by default. Like administrator is an easy choice, but there might be some conflicts with existing websites, so we have to check that. So this PR now, let's look at the notes. Site owner permission has been deprecated. Okay, so the goal is that nobody should rely on the site owner permission to do anything. And anywhere in Orchard where it was using the site owner permission to grant access, for instance, to run recipes, should create a custom permission and mark it security sensitive and use this permission instead of site owner. So site owner is still there, but deprecated, so it doesn't break on build, just gives you a warning. It will break, might not break, I don't know. It won't break at runtime, but the build should show you that you should not use site owner. To avoid breaking changes, a fast track migration has been added at the top to be assigned the administrator role to any user with a SiteOwner permission. So if you have a website and some roles have the SiteOwner permission already, every user that was in a role that had SiteOwner will be given the administrator role, because the SiteOwner permission doesn't work anymore. So we promote them to administrators because that's what SiteOwner was doing. But I need to read that. The recipe feature now authorizes against the new manage recipes permission, because before the manage recipes was actually the recipe module was using the SiteOwner permission. So now there is a new permission name, manage recipes. The recipe feature now authorizes against that instead of relying on the Deprecate SiteOwner. Okay. And if you are promoted to administrator, you can manage recipes, even if you don't have the manage recipes permission. So that's completely compatible. So we don't have to migrate users to this permission because we don't know if they have the manage recipes permission. Before they were using SiteOwner. Yeah. So all the new websites should have the manage recipes disabled by default. Will have, as a matter of fact. If the existing administrator did not have the SiteOwner permission, so I will believe that this PR assumes that administrator is the name of the role for new websites that will be SiteOwners. If the existing administrator did not have that SiteOwner, a new role will be generated and assigned as a system admin role. Okay, so if today you are using administrator, but you remove the SiteOwner permission to this role, then we will have to create a new role named administrator 2, for instance. That will be the SiteOwner 1. And any other role that had SiteOwner will be also assigned administrator 2, because administrator on your site doesn't mean that you want to be SiteOwner. But if it was the case, and because we assume administrator is a new SiteOwner role, then it will be kept this way. Administrator is now a SiteOwner role. How do we call it? System admin role. System admin. The system admin role. There is one. So if your site has administrator and is not SiteOwner, then there will be a new one that will be generated dynamically. And this is actually a setting. So this whole baby name, admin, site administration, SiteOwner. Oh, so that's a chain of values that you implemented. So if there is administrator without a SiteOwner, then you try to create admin. If it exists, then okay, let's try with site admin. Okay, let's try with site administration. Okay, let's try with SiteOwner. And then, okay, there is no way we can find one. Okay, let's call it admin 1, admin 2, admin 3 until it works. Okay, additionally, any user previously assigned to the SiteOwner permission or to a role with the SiteOwner will automatically be granted this newly created role. And the assumption here is that we don't have a gigabillion users assigned to a role with SiteOwner. Okay, then you have a different, because the migration will update every single user. So if you have a lot of users, that's not a problem, as long as all those users are not SiteOwner already. So there will be a minimum set of requests to do to upgrade the site that has this minimum set of SiteOwners today. Okay.
Even if you have some silly site that has a million admins on the site, we do the update in a background task, so it finish whenever it finishes.
Okay, see that done. So it's a background task, but it's triggered automatically on startup, something like that. It's not something that the user.
It's a migration.
Okay.
It's a migration that we create the role with, but then after we create the role, we trigger a background task that would just run through the users and grant them the new role.
Yeah,
If needed.
So what we did in Orchard 1 for these cases was there was a gesture, like it was a controller, a specific controller that you would invoke with a button that is in a specific section of the website. And this action would trigger from the client side some batch calls. So it was a long-running web request, but with Ajax call, so you can see the progress and you could even cancel it if you want. So let's see how it helps. But yeah, I'm confident that there won't be that many users. It shouldn't be an issue. Recipe feature. You manage recipes permission added. Okay, so now we have my recipe feature, theme feature, user with apply theme permission can use theme. So you see users with the site owner permission can basically list things. Okay, now users will take listing apply theme permission can also list and apply theme.
It looks like a different bug.
You mean a different bug? Like now there is a bug, or before there was a bug?
It's not really. I mean, it's kind
It's
of
weird.
awkward because it's weird because you won't be able to see the themes unless you're a site owner. But if you have an apply theme, you can apply a theme without seeing this. So it's kind of weird. So now we just use the apply theme for both to list the themes on the menu, and so you can navigate to it. And also it's the same theme to actually apply the theme and say, hey, this is my new theme.
And about enabling a feature, what kind of permissions is required to enable a feature?
I think we have a manage features, if I recall correctly, permission
As
for
long
that.
as long as applying a theme is the same kind of gesture as enabling a feature, then that's fine in terms of security.
I mean, it's a permission. So let me,
Need to check.
I'll
just,
look right now. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
just
look
check
right
in the features list what is required to enable a feature. Who can enable a feature? And it should be the same thing for applying a theme because it's the same technical thing that is doing.
Yeah, we might want to like create one that's called manage theme. So it's probably consistent.
Well,
but
actually, there is apply theme and there is enable theme. Probably there is a difference here. Because you can have multiple themes enabled, and then apply maybe means select this one by default. This is different. Okay, but we can see that. Okay, and lots of changes, lot of work.
Yeah, so we have a feature, a permission called manage features, and you'll need that permission to do anything with features, whether it's enable, disable, list. So it's a single feature. It's kind of similar. Instead of calling it manage themes here, we're calling it apply theme. Maybe we can deprecate it. And
there is a permission, which is fine, but we need to check that the manage themes also uses needs the manage feature or something like that.
there is no manage theme, is what I'm saying.
But maybe the code itself is checking manage features to be able to enable a theme.
I'll double check again, but I didn't see that.
Cool. Okay, that could be, let me check in the PR now. So there should be somewhere, if last time we talked about it, there should be somewhere with some settings where we could change the name of
it's done in the migration. It's not a setting unless you specify it directly in the app settings.
Yeah,
you can just search migration and you can it's called the roles migration.
What do you mean by unless you define it in there?
So if you look at the roles migrations, you will see how, yeah, that needs to be removed. I didn't see that. What
That's
you're
not something.
highlighting.
Okay, that's
No.
nothing. There is no such thing. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, that's
okay. Good. Okay, that.
No, on the left you have that role migrations.
Yeah.
That's where that's the important part. Because when we first need to, do the logic, and if we determine that we need to create a new role for those very rare scenarios where administrator is not currently a site owner, then on line 50 here, that's where we generate the new name, we create the role, and then if you scroll down, you will see how we save that role to the tenant settings.
Okay. Yeah, I have different suggestions, which is not harder to implement, but just to put them down. But that doesn't scale.
Why would it not scale? Every instance would have to read from the app settings before the app starts.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
but you can't
save it
on
every node.
You can't save it on every settings. You can read it from every node, but you can't save it to every node. That's why I think this feature is busted. It happens to work today for all the people that use it, but it doesn't work. And here you are relying on that. So you get it like only one node out of your 2, 3, 4 will run this code. Only one node will get its app settings updated. And then when the other ones restart, they won't know what's the name of the new role that they should use because only one node knows about it.
So I mean, if you're using a distribution, I mean,
yes.
If you're using Azure host, then it would write it onto the shared instance and all of them.
If you are using one of the features of one of the cloud providers, then it will work. Again, if I use my own computer with 3 different Docker instances just to try, you will see that it doesn't work. If you use VMs on Azure, you will see it doesn't work. It will work if you use a local machine with one node or Azure App Service, which will handle that for you because it's a single file system. That's where it will work. Everywhere else, it won't work. But there is an option to make it work everywhere. Not use that. Rely only on the app settings, read only. So the idea is, what I would suggest, and I think we talked about it, but you thought we could do that. Maybe, but I think it won't work. It will work in the test, but some people will have issues with multiple VMs. So what I would suggest is have the setting in app setting as read-only. If it's set on startup, we use that for the name of the system role and you do the same code here, but you just read that from the setting here. Okay. And then if it's not set and you detect that the default name that you wanted has that or doesn't have the site permission, then we throw an exception and we say, I can't start the site because I want to use a system role.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a valid approach because again, you can't, like, if you're on a SaaS, you can't really control what your tenants are doing, right? So you can't just upgrade and now you have a bunch of sites are just have an exception because of that role name. And that's where the problem here.
Then we use a default name, but a name that is not used anywhere. And we said that SaaS could define app setting for each of the tenants, still in read-only for the tenant-specific app setting.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think this has to be per tenant. Okay, for this to work, it has to be per tenant. If you're thinking the shell setting is a problem, well, then we need to store that somewhere globally, maybe in the database. don't know. But shell settings today, we use the same logic in many other places, right? So if this is not going to work, well, we might want to have to go back and change how we do things in a bunch of other places.
So it
But-
can't be in database because it's security. It's too much of security. Someone could just hack the role in some way. You can always also say, oh, I can add myself as a role, but changing the name of the admin role in database, it scares me. Otherwise, that would work database because it's central. And when
yeah,
you
so
say
I mean,
necessity,
well, it's a system. It's an app. I mean, you're just basically putting a place to say the administrator role system name is called this. I don't think there's a problem with that being in the database, because if you already have access to the database, you can elevate your access and just assign administrator to your own
and if
user.
you have access
So I
to the
don't
file
think,
system, and if you have access to the file system, you can just assign a name in the file system in the app settings, even for each tenant. The
correct.
same way you would
That's
do it
what
for
I'm
each tenant
saying.
on database. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So if you say that it's fine, no, when I'm saying setting, I'm saying read only from the code, because you say, oh, let's use database because every tenant would have it. Fine. You have a SaaS solution. You are suggesting to edit the role name for each tenant in their database. Fine. If you think it's fine to do that, I will say then it's fine to do that on the file system for each tenant. Each tenant has an app setting, and you can define for each tenant that you want to change the name of the default system admin role. If it's fine to do that in the database, it's fine to do that in the file system.
Yeah, and I personally think it's fine to write it on the file system. I understand the problem that you're raising, but I think it's already something we already have.
Sorry. What I
And
missed
we already have it.
what I missed from your argument was that no, we don't write by ourselves, like in database. The code writes it in the database on startup because this is where you want to start.
Correct. And it only
Yeah,
writes
that's
it if you have administrator, if it's not an administrator. So by default, administrator. If administrator
Okay.
currently is a site owner, no one cares.
So
But
I
if you
prefer
have that,
I prefer that to have it in the site settings on the database, because we have like general settings, right? Even for security. So it could be in the security section of the site settings or whatever in the database. And it could even be exposed on the UI, which I don't think it's a good idea. And that will also raise an issue, which is what permissions do you need to be able to change the site settings, the sysadmin role. That would be also tricky. Okay, but yeah. Issue also with the database is, in case you have a problem, how do you change that? You have to access the database to change that instead of just going to the app settings and change that manually.
and that's why I thought app setting is the way to go.
Yeah, but
And
no,
again, we're only writing app setting. The only time we write that, only if we cannot use administrator as your administrator role. That's the only time we write it to the app settings. And so I think it's a fair.
I know, because but I will say, then if you say that's the only time, I will answer, this is the only time when you need for a tenant to change the file on the file system. So just go open the file system and change it. The only time on the first startup, done.
Yeah, well, that's true. But the thing is, you don't really know your tenants, right? Like if we look at, think about the .nest, right? They don't know their tenants. They don't know what their tenant settings look like, right? So this right here just walks through every tenant and determine, can I use administrator or not? And if I can use administrator, then no change needed. Everybody's happy. But if I can't use administrator, then I need to come up with a new name, right? It has to be unique. It has to not exist on that one tenant. And I have to save that value somewhere. So next time the request comes in, I can say, what is the name of the administrator role? You know what I mean? So I think that's the thing, is that you need to know that. And the only time you do that.
Yeah. So maybe provide the list of available names in the tenants in the settings for everyone, and then Lombiq, for instance, will just set 10 different names like you did for 5. You can add one that for sure doesn't exist anywhere and tell people, dude, if you have the 10th name, it's because you created 9 roles that are exactly the ones we wanted to use. So no way.
Yeah, that's okay. If we need to put that list, if you go scroll up, there is a list
okay.
up top. Yeah.
Then that's a better
has a
argument,
list.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, you see right there. But we could use those as default, but someone could probably provide alternate names in the app settings. So if you want, we can do that. If make
and
it
that's
more
also
flexible.
solve the issue with George that says he doesn't want to use administrator, he wants to use SiteOwner. And that's what also my argument at first. If we have a value in the settings that is called SiteOwner, then we use SiteOwner and we test if the SiteOwner exists and then create a. So, and then we could even fail. Like if we really can't find one that is not part of this list, then we fail. And if you want to go administrator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just add administrator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as fallbacks. And if it fails after that, then we have a bigger problem. We found a site that has administrator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, site owner, site administrator, admin, and everything. And I'm like, no, you need to tell us what value.
I mean, we could easily just like worst case scenario, we could just say admin 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, at this point, if we got that far, that's a problem they're just gonna have to deal with. Yeah, I mean, there's no point of throwing exception if we don't have to.
What do you mean? How do you?
What is it?
How do you don't throw an exception?
So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking if I can't pick from that list and it's still not there, I'm just gonna take the first entry and I'm gonna add a numeric value at the end of it until I find one that works, and that's it. So I won't throw an exception, but I'm gonna create one anyway.
But my concern is that you can't then save the name.
Yeah, but we have to save the name anyway, so
that's
yes,
why
you have to save the name.
That's what I'm saying. But you can't save the name, so you can't do that because you can't do the next step, which is save the name.
Yeah, but even if we only use this alternate native
I'm saying you don't save the name. You use the list here.
We can't use that list.
Yeah, right.
We can't use that list because we can't just say all these roles are admins.
Yeah, you're right. When it finds one, we need to know which one it found, because after that we have this one existing, and this one which is new, which is the one we want. So
that's why this is an alternative admin role names, right? So it's so in case we need to pick one, a new one, I'm gonna just make up a name, from that list based on the logic we have. And then for that one tenant, I'm going to write it to their app settings, because every single time I need to get that value, I will read it from their app settings if one exists. If not, then it's administrator.
And what if we go back to your original suggestion to add the type to the role itself? Something like...
Say that again?
Yeah, you originally suggested to have a flag on the role itself to save the type of the role.
It's the same thing as saving the name in the database.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's save the name in the database at that point, and then.
That's true.
And then good, so these things.
I honestly think what I implemented here, I think it's a very fair approach. Might not be 100%, but it's a very fair approach. I can understand of providing these alternative admin roles as a setting. So if someone doesn't like to use the word admin or site admin, they can provide their own preferably alternative list, right?
My suggestion, I would say, is fair. My optimal suggestion is fair. It is, we have one setting in the app settings. This is the name of the site, the sysadmin role. One name. It's called whatever you want, but it's one name. And if this name exists and as a site owner, when you start, it's an exception. You need to change your settings to make it work. That's my fair recommendation.
I don't think
it will work for 99% of the sites, because 99% of the sites.
This is going to work with 99.99% then. This is better. This is more better approach because you're not going to have an exception, but you might not, have the administrator role. Because like I said, maybe you have a million sites running. One of the sites selected that unique role, unless you come up with like unique identifier, not an actual English name.
That's
and then that's
idea.
it.
That's a good idea. I don't know if I understood what you said, but at least what I have in mind is a good idea, which is not through an exception. Just go on. You just don't have a site owner role right now. There is no site owners. And if you really want a site, and we display a message, if dudes, you don't have a site owner, you should contact Lombiq to give you the name of a good admin role because your admin roles are shitty. So.
Well, and then the problem with that is that now you locked yourself out.
No. Why? You still have your user.
If you're no longer an admin.
And what? If you're not longer, wait, a site owner, you are still in all the roles you were before. You just don't have the permission site owner anymore. That's it.
Yeah, but if you removed every permission.
No, wait. I'm saying, I don't think you understood it. Like,
oh yeah, you're right.
You have an administrator, okay, with a site owner. It's called administrator. Okay, and you have a site owner. Well, I can't even imagine a site where you have an issue actually. So what's the issue here? You have okay, sorry. The issue is when you have administrator role which doesn't have site owner, okay? And we say administrator is a sysadmin role, but it's not site owner on your site. So you start a website, and the migration says, oh, there is administrator. Does it have the site owner? No. Oh, crap. So I can't use the administrator name that you configured because it's not a site owner. So fine, administrator won't be a site owner then. Let's go on. And then we display a message saying, hey, users, your administrator role doesn't have the site owner anymore because you decided to use administrator as the name of the system module, but it didn't have the site owner permission. So we could not do the migration. Please contact Lombiq to fix it, to find you a different name. That's what's happening. Everyone who logs in now, and we're administrator, they don't have the site owner permission. They have to call Lombiq to have the site owner permission. That's what they do. Everyone else can still log.
But then how would Lombiq, right? How would they go about assigning a new role for that user?
Yes. They go on the site settings, wherever they manage that, on environment variables, on the file system, wherever, because they manage site settings, they have to. And they say for this tenant who have very weird settings, let's change that settings to tell the name of the sys role is site owner or admin.
So where would they write it? They would write
in
it
the
to
file
the app
system.
Settings. Yeah, in the file system. That's exactly what this is doing, though.
Oh,
instead of you having to do it manually.
Sorry, in the environment variables of all their nodes where it matters. Boom.
Yeah, but then what if you create the name? So let's say you decided you're gonna call it XYZ for this one tenant, and then you use it, but then another tenant is already using XYZ. Now you can't have a unique value across.
It's a tenant level setting at that point. It's a tenant level setting. The setting in the environment variable is called orchard core _ tenant name _ administrator sysadmin. You set it just for this tenant that has an issue. If you don't want to use an environment variable, you go to the file system app settings. If there is a tenants.appsettings.json that you edit and you put the new name inside. The root one is called administrator if you wanted to use the default one. The tenants one is whatever you want, just for the tenants that have the issue. There is no exception.
But like you're adding more work, for absolutely no good reason that I can think of. I mean, like this right here is going to do that work for you. Okay, and you don't have to worry about, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to manually go as a tenant and fix 100 tenants because of some issue that we're trying to raise.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So I don't expect 100 tenants to have administrator role without site owner. That you don't manage on a SaaS. You show me one company that has that. Second, now I will tell the issue that we raised. And I will give you 100 customers who are using VMs with 2 nodes.
Okay, 2 VMs, just for reliability. You have 2 nodes on your website. That's pretty common, I would say, that you have two VMs to run if you have distributed system. Okay, and then their settings has been updated on one machine. How do they know that they don't have
I don't think you
SiteOwner?
can. I don't think you can run Orchard in a distributed fashion if you do not have a central place for the file system. You just can't. Orchard will fail anyway.
No,
Like
that's
it
wrong.
doesn't work.
Why do
No,
you
that
say
is not wrong because I've had that issue. It just won't work because again, the system thing by definition, right, in Orchard is mutable. That's one. Another thing is that your key, the security key also is stored in the file system.
That's
so
wrong.
all that has to be distributed
That's
in order
wrong.
for it to work. What do you
I
mean?
disagree.
What's work?
What you said, I disagree. Because when you say your key has to be distributed, yes, exactly. When you use a distributed system, you use a distributed data protection key, and there is a log that tells you when you don't use a file system for that, unless you're an app service, which you do, but not everyone does it. And this is a feature of ASP.NET Core. Are you saying that ASP.NET Core doesn't work in a distributed environment outside of Azure App Service? Yes, it does, because there are key managers for distributed. You can put it in database, you can put on Key Vault, there are solutions, and we have them baked into Orchard. You can't say that Orchard doesn't work on 2 machines with 2 nodes. I stop Orchard now because that's what we did for 10 years.
It wouldn't work unless you have enabled the feature for distribution. And if you do, then the app setting issue that you're raising is not really an issue anymore, because you are writing to the app setting that is being distributed, which is written in one place and being read from multiple places. So we have no issues.
What is the implementation of Orchard where we have distributed app settings mutable?
Just look at the document, look at the docs, look at the app settings, and you might get like app settings. I'm trying to remember because I don't know. But in the app settings, we have 3 layers, right? We have the global, and then we have the tenant located inside the app settings. And then we have the mutable per tenant, which you can write directly to it. And we do it, like I said, all the time, because this is not the first time we do this. We did the same thing when we did the table prefix. We did the same thing when we added the integer versus a big integer. When we changed
these 2 examples, I don't agree, because these are things that you set on the app settings before you start the application. You don't have a choice. You can't save it anywhere else than in the app settings on the file system or in the environment variables. They are read-only. I don't think we use them for write, because these are.
And also we also use them. We also use the file name if you have a SQLite, the actual file name.
Same thing, because it's database, it has to be done before you start, so it has to be manual app settings. I don't see where we save.
It's not the changing the file name is done at runtime. It's not something you specify in prior. But I mean, look at the app setting. It tells you it's mutable.
But where does it save it? What is the implementation?
In the app, it's right there in the apps. So you see B, the iShell settings right there on 6B. 6B. So app, data, sites, tenant name, and then app settings. That is a mutable file.
So no, there is a total misunderstanding here. This is a file that is pertinent. We agree. This is a file that is pertinent. If you start saving on this file, this is not distributed. You just told me there was an implementation that was distributed. This is a file.
It is distributed, 100%. We have a feature that will make that distributed.
Okay, and that's my question. Where is the feature in Orchard that does that? What is the name of the feature? Not the file name, because it's not. If it's a feature, it doesn't depend on a file name. It depends on a feature that is called distributed settings, but not distributed app settings.json on the tenant. No, that's not a feature. It can't work.
look at that feature because it's on Azure something.
Okay, then that's an Azure service. Hey.
No, it writes on Azure blob, as I
Okay.
don't know the.
I see. So you can save your settings in an Azure blob.
Yes, exactly, and that's how it becomes distributed. I think it's called host. Is it host? Azure.
And if we can save it, we can load it too. So that must be a feature that is loading settings from a blob.
Yeah, it's called data protection Azure. That's for the data protection.
That's a part
I think the other one.
settings.
Correct. It came up. That's why I'm saying that. And also, I think it's called host Azure storage. Damn it, I can't come up with it. Host. It has to be. But now you really have me looking. Hold on. I know I'm using it in production environment. I know, in fact, that's how it works. I just okay. So it's not a feature. It's actually an extension on the Orchard Builder that you say you add Azure Shells configuration, and that will automatically grab or store the app settings into the Azure blob, and that's how it's mutable. You can, if you, there you go. There you go. So that will make the app shell. And if you're trying to distribute Orchard without enabling this feature or something else that will distribute the shell configuration, good luck. It won't work.
Nice.
Perfect. How do I check that it supports the mutability in this case, that it will use this one? What is an implementation? Can I decode the code? Shell database? This one will be the most interesting because that will be the most obvious one that will support that.
I never used
that's his database shell configuration. And this is not a feature, it has to be by code. Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, but if you're running in a distribution fashion, you would have to distribute it. Yeah.
Perfect. No, that's perfect. If that is supported to also mutate the shell settings, to mutate yeah, this is fine. Database shell configuration. That's the one I want to see.
I think you can look at the blob shell configuration sources.
This one. This one, that's what you said?
No, I was referring to the blob.
Okay, but this one is database one. That should be the same thing. Shell settings will be for the site settings, and this one will be for the configuration sources, which will match with the options and everything, which will be the equivalent of app settings.
And there's
That's good. So then that's perfect. So what you've done then will totally work.
Yeah.
How do we know? So there is one source in this case, because there is a migrate. So we can still have things in the files, and then it will also load from the database. And when you save, it will save in the database.
I think that try migrate, if I'm not mistaken, from my memory, what it does if you turn this feature on, or if you by code,
the source, the documentation, the documentation explains what it was doing. It says optionally there is a setting, and you will see that it's called from the setting from the app settings, that if you have enabled the migrate from files, then on startup it will copy the file content to the database.
But only if it not exists before.
If it doesn't exist. If it exists, that's it.
That's perfect. But then and I would not personally do that. That's fine. But then if I don't do that, we'll still, I assume, because it's just an option, I assume it will still read from the file system, and then after that read from the database to overwrite anything that was in the file system from the database. Or is it the other way around? I don't know, but that should have been documented. That will matter. But I would say, okay, database should read in this case. No, I mean, that's exactly what's required in this case to make the app settings mutable.
Well, you make it distributable, not mutable. It's mutable already.
Yeah, that's what
you make it distributable.
But going back to the original issue about the rows, I think we should not use the administrator role. We should create a separate site owner special role and leave the administrator role alone most of the time. Because the administrator role is always configured in the recipes, and I think it's common enough that someone might have administrators that are not site owners as well.
Yeah,
And
but I think
instead of-
most people use an administrator as a site owner.
Can you,
So I wouldn't
repeat
want to
yours?
create the new.
I don't understand your concern here.
No, it's not. My suggestion would be to create a separate role all the time, well, most of the time.
Yeah.
So additionally to the existing administrator role, we have a site owner role.
Okay, then there
Just
is a way.
to make it absolutely clear that this is special.
It is special, but people didn't want it to be special apparently because they are using administrator or site owner.
That's how it's configured by us before.
Yeah, but and if they don't use that, then they already have a special role.
Yeah, it's a special. In
Oh.
fact,
yeah,
we
but
use that
we
name.
have the permission site
permission
owner, and we are
providers.
replacing that permission. We want to remove the permission site owner, and I think it's more clear if we have a separate role that explicitly continues to use this name. But I'm fine with the current way as well.
I think it's always the administrator has always been a special name. In fact, we bake it like everywhere we put in the system, we hard code that value, right? Like even our permission
Yes.
provider, we have administrator. So administrator has always been our special, but there's some people they decided, well, I don't care about what you guys think. I'm going to make it my own. So we're going to respect that with the VR and say, okay, you want to go about it that way, we'll have a workaround for you. But for those people who respected what we had from the get-go, we're gonna just make it even better. I don't know, like I don't want to end up, if I have 100 sites and 99 sites use administrator as they should, I don't want to have to give them yet another role just because I decided to migrate them. You know what I mean?
Can you give me an
Yeah,
example,
I can
George?
understand that.
Can you give me an example exactly, like a site which has a role with this permission? And so in your case, just the site has what role with which permission?
No, just because we are always assigning every permission to the administrator role as well, and via this get default stereotype or get default stereo permission, don't know how it's called, and it might be better to separate it. It's just a feeling.
That could be a recommendation for sites. So,
yeah, but we can also use administrator. I'm fine with that.
So I think that's something we mentioned in the issue, you know, that oh no, that was on the issue with matTrabolsi maybe when we had this issue. The new sites after this PR, this is still using administrator, and the administrator will be the sysadmin role. Okay, that's the new default for a new site. Is that something you want for new sites? I think so. We still want to set the sysadmin role, and nobody is assigned to the admin role unless the admin user account that is created on startup, right? So do we actually need a different one? Like, what are the permissions that are useful in the administrator role that are not in other role when you start? Apart from site owner. I have a type. Do you have a type that you have a role that can edit settings, edit anything, or do I need to be site administrator?
You can edit most, except some very special things like recipes. If you give someone,
yeah, but before it was site owner, I see.
Superpower.
Before it was site owner, so
yeah.
So today it will still be site owner unless you want to create a role that can edit, that can execute recipes, and then you create a new role. Yeah, I think that's fine.
I just wanted to bring this up.
Okay, so going back, administrator is a default value. There are alternative. Yeah, this thing being, yeah, okay, it's uploaded, it's there. Where is the word administrator in this file?
Where
Oh, that's it.
it's a
Okay, that's a
constant.
constant.
So
I
it's a
was looking for a
constant.
string.
Yeah, it's a constant.
Why is it constant? Because it can be anything. Why isn't it called
Well, because
default?
we replace all the strings from all over, like the role names, and we made them constant at some point because we just don't want to keep typing administrator all over and have typos and stuff like that. So it kind of made sense to have a constant for all the role names.
Okay, and that's then I think what that's a minor PR review issue, but then that should not be used this way. It should be called default administrator or name, something like that, or it should just be the first entry there, and then it's all like on the migration. Because after it's taken from. How do you take it? That's the question. How do you get the sysadmin role after that? Like, how do I? Is there another complaint like this one? This one. What is something that requires a sysadmin role?
There it's in the handler. Let me go back to the PR again. A second. So yeah,
This
okay,
one?
I remember now. Look at the yes, that's in the role service. So I added two new functions to that role service that will tell us if this is an admin or not. This given role is an admin or not. And then that system role catalog, that's a small singleton class that is that keeps track of the system roles for us.
Oh,
So if you look at that system roles catalog, look at that file. That's a singleton class that we populate in the constructor. And if that app setting has that value, we use it. Otherwise, we use the administrator.
okay.
And then we
Why?
create the roles.
So we need the system roles to be able to not delete them, to mark them in the UI.
I like that.
It's no choice. Yeah, this constant here. So two minor things that we run this thing here. So the roles is in constant roles, where that constant.
It's existing.
Yeah, it was there.
Yeah, that's something
I
exists.
get it.
Yeah.
It's just that constant. Oh, that's why it doesn't show up here. Okay. So what we have there?
Administrator, like the full.
I mean, this class, what kind of things we have here? Oh, I see. Constants for different roles. Okay. Okay, this thing is, yeah, that's that's a string constant. The only constant here is that it doesn't give the meaning of what it is. It's like it's not the name of the default sysadmin role. It's the string administrator. Okay, so it works, but the string administrator has no concept here. So when you do constants, but administrator. Yeah. So I find it. Okay. So when you say that here, get default select type, and you say administrator, you already say the administrator string instead of saying what's the default name of the administrator role, which could be something else. It happens to be the string administrator. So I'm just semantics. So that's I'd say that's fine, but ideally there should be like default administrator role name somewhere, maybe not this string. And if you want to have this other constants points to the string administrator, which is this one, that's fine. But I think we should have a different constant to say the default administrator role name, only in the roles module, not in the global order constant or wherever we need this thing.
And speaking of that, I think we agree that all the permission provider that return stereotype administrator, we can just remove them. We don't care about them anymore because we don't care about permissions for that admin. Or maybe we do. No, maybe we do.
Yeah, it was one of my reasons why I was just suggesting to.
No, I think we need. So what I was thinking, if you scroll back down to the stereotype function, so currently we still for the permission provider. So in the permission provider, we still have to return to say, if you're an admin, you get these permissions. Okay. If you are an actual administrator, it doesn't matter. Permissions don't matter anymore. In fact, you cannot pick and choose permissions. But I actually caught myself because I think you do need it. Because for these weird sites where administrator is not treated,
you see, in this case,
admin,
this is where this constant makes sense. For the thing that is named administrator, you return this permission.
Yeah, so here I think it's fine. We need to keep the permission and stereotypes. We need to keep them. I asked a question and I answered myself, I guess.
That should be then deprecated and removed later?
No, because we're still supporting if someone that are using the administrator site or administrator role as a non-owner. Yeah, we're still going to load that.
So we still return it, but we actually. Okay, it's just for
most of the time it's not needed. If the administrator is the site owner.
Just for the old sites. For the new sites, it's not useful, but it's there.
I see.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a weird thing
Continue
that,
to-
oh,
Yeah,
it's named
it
this
will
way,
work.
so we return you these permissions. That's kind of weird. Okay. So yeah, this consent is valid in this case, but this is not default administrator role name or default sysadmin role name. Okay, just to not use the word administrator. And the other thing that was bothering me again, a little thing, is the way you check if this is the sysadmin role. If we have this concept of there is a role that is the sysadmin, when we check like, is the current role a sysadmin? Why? I would just say, what is the name of the sysadmin role? The system role, well, the sysadmin role. And then check if this role is that, instead of having a method that is like a service that tells you if this is the sysadmin role.
Yeah, but you don't want to keep checking. You know, you don't want to keep evaluating the app settings every single time.
I'm not
That's
saying
what
that.
I thought.
I'm not saying that
Oh.
because you have the singleton you made. What's his name?
Something catalog.
Okay. So this is loaded in memory just once. There is no settings, it never changes. And it's there, admin role name. So
Yes.
whatever service you implement, instead of checking that the role you give it is this one, I would just say, no, give me a thing that gives me this one, and I can check myself. I can check if the value is the same. And then maybe I can use...
because it's part of, I think I thought about that. In fact, at one point I had a function in here that say is admin in here, but then I'm like, that's not really the job of this catalog.
No, I'm not saying
the job
that.
of the
What is the method that you check? Like is admin
service role.
This one, yeah. So instead of having the is admin role async, this one makes sense because it will wrap the catalog. But or maybe we need another one which is like, give me the admin role name. Where is that thing? I can't get it without accessing the system catalog. That's what I was saying. Like, just
I see. Like,
and it doesn't have to be async.
Admin role?
And it doesn't have to be async. What, like, get admin role name. Boom, done. So yeah, making it a service, it's weird. Like, it's just like, again, what you did works. It's just semantically, I find it weird to just, because again, it would be like, oh, let me implement a method every time I want to compare a string with something else.
Well, the thing is, with this, we're saying that admin is, is case insensitive. So I don't want you to be like, take this string. I'm gonna give you a string, and then it's up to you to check if it's, So I think it just kind of, maybe it is useful to say admin role name. Yeah, and then this way we can check, and then we can also return it.
Service. Is it a service on the interface? I think that's kind of.
Yeah, it's a role service. So it's a role service. So we can add another function.
No, yeah. So then just make it an extension method. Don't put it on the implementation.
You can't because, well, you could, I guess, but you won't be able to retrieve it from the system role catalog. You would have to kind of repeat that logic.
That's why that's why I'm saying the service should have the get name, and everything you do with get names, then. So this one, I get it. Okay, is system role, I think. Yeah, that's what. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just add a method then to return the name, because we might want the name. Because system catalog might be an implementation detail. It could even be private and not public, and just expose the results from this thing, which is a singleton, because it's a cache.
Yeah, actually, that system role, I think we can even make it internal. I think.
And then expose a method to get the value that might be useful, like.
Yeah.
Because there are 3 of them, right? We just have 3 system roles. We don't have 4, 5, 6, 7, right? We have.
So here's the thing. Okay, so here's the other argument. If you want to have a function here that say return get admin role name, then Maybe you need another method that's called get system roles. You know?
And my comment was just, yeah, maybe we need get authenticated role name, get anonymous role name, get system admin role name. If these are the three that we support, and not just randomly give me all the system, because we just have 3 of them.
I mean, those methods, we can add them, but they just won't be used at all, like by Orchard. So like I wrote this and I didn't need to say get admin role name. So, I mean, do we really need to?
Because you're checking
them?
because you're just checking today, but what
Yeah,
if you want to
exactly.
display what is the name of the admin role in the docs somewhere in the UI?
Yeah, we can always add them later.
Yeah, and also right now you can just inject the system roles catalog and get that information.
So you want to make it internal now, so nobody injects it, and then you can change it if you want, remove it if you want.
I have to see if we can, because we might be using it in couple projects.
Then
So I'm
it's
not
wrong.
sure that we can.
You see, you can't say I have no place where I need the name, and there are places where I have to use the names. So
Well, actually,
decide-
I have tests against it, and so because I have tests, I don't.
it can be internal, and it can be internal visible to the test. But keep it internal, because tomorrow someone will use it and will say, oh, we want to refactor how it's done because it's an implementation detail. No, you made it public. It's not an implementation detail. It's part of the public service. So I would make it internal right now until we really think this is what we want, and just expose the data that we might want on the data, not the implementation detail.
I have to see where I'm using it first.
I just put it up.
If even I'm able to write it to make it internal, how would I be able to access that from the test project?
Because it's internal. That's why we put it
Yeah, but
internal and not private. Internal. And
But
then,
internal, will it be to all the projects
no, so
within the no?
in
For
the
the
project,
test, you can add a assembly attribute.
in the project that has the internal class, you add an assembly attribute named internal visible to, and you give the name of the test that you allow to see the internals. That's why internal is made for. To allow a list of methods. I will show you an example right after.
I just did that in the
Yeah,
George did
show
that
me an
in the PR
example.
last week. Yeah, George did that in a PR yesterday, or in an open PR for the Redis wrapper.
Correct.
Yeah, I can make it internal if we can get the test to work. I never had to do that.
Okay, well, that's great. Good job, Mike. And
Yeah,
thank you
very
for
good
the
job.
discussions.
Thank you.
And for insisting on your belief, because that's how we make progress. And I learned a new feature. I'm sure I knew about it at some point, but my Alzheimer is working fine on me. I had no idea we had an implementation to store the site settings in a distributed fashion, so that's perfect.
That's good. You're just testing my Orchard core knowledge.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Started, it should be quick. It was the longest ever. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.